And welcome to our meteorology segment. This video was originally streamed live to twitch.tv/smAsho. Please become a follower over at twitch.tv/smAsho. We're almost at 100. We only need 3 more to get to 100 followers over on Twitch. I mean, surprisingly low number of followers over there. So let's take a look at the NASA GOES lightning mapper here. And southern Michigan seeing some heavy lightning there, as well as over Lake Erie, just about to move into Pennsylvania. Also some lightning there moving across Nebraska and northern Kansas and into Canada from Minnesota. Sudden violent storms here off of the Gulf Coast of Florida as well. Heavy lightning, sudden rains, sudden cloud nucleation. We'll get to it. First, a real-time lightning map from lightningmaps.org. And let's see if we can sight some terrestrial lightning here. Hey Topeka, you're in the crosshairs. Hey Manhattan, there's thunder rolling in. You are experiencing a lightning storm currently. Anyway, we'll zoom out to the global view. There is your global lightning map. Here's your weather.gov map and some heat advisories here, both in the northeast and around the Mississippi Valley. And also we've got some flash flood warnings here once again for most of the state of Washington, western Oregon, even parts of northern California there. Head to weather.gov and click on your county if you are in the crosshairs. We've got a heat advisory here, I think, in Lehigh County, Pennsylvania. And if you're wondering where SMASH staff and I are located, we're right about here. That's where Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania is located. Next, looking at surface winds. Here are the surface winds of the Western world. We do have a rotating system here southwest of Baja California, as well as south of Iceland. They're both looking pretty weak and misshapen. Here are the jet streams of the west. Extreme meridional jet stream flow once again taking over. Convective forces largely in charge of the U.S. weather once again here. Jet stream mostly staying north of the lower 48. We've got some backward jet stream motion here in the central Atlantic as well as the eastern Pacific. Some backward jet stream flow, folks. Southern hemisphere a little more coherent. Here is the jet stream scenario for the eastern world. And shout out to our viewers from this side of the planet. Please tell your friends and foes about the channel, as we have practically 0 viewers in this area besides Australia, New Zealand, Tasmania, etc. Once again, on this side of the planet, the western Pacific seeing some backward jet stream flow, as well as the northern Indian Ocean. The jet stream normally flows west to east, folks, not east to west. So there's some more backward jet stream for all of you meteorology alarmists. Next, thanks to our patrons who have been increasing the probability that videos like this one will continue to exist and remain publicly visible and free for all to view. Patreon.com/smashamash for all kinds of early alerts. Major changes coming in September. We won't get into it in this video. Thanks again to our patrons. Help fund us at patreon.com/smashamash or visit our other links at smashamash.org, which will redirect you to smashamash.com. Let's talk about alarmism. Some past sea levels may not have been as high as thought. Why? Because of rising and sinking land masses. So I went into a deep dive a couple of years ago, and I stayed up all night, spending about 10 hours studying climate change. And I've been studying climate change formally since 1987 in earth science class. 8th grade earth science is when I first learned about things like the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, the AMOC. And I remember specifically coming home from school and saying, did you know that global warming causes global cooling because fresh water gets injected into the AMOC and causes Europe to freeze? Yeah, it's a thing. One of the many issues about climate change is the idea of sea level rise. So it's not very well understood, as mankind had to rely on tidal gauges in order to measure sea level rise. Now in the satellite age, satellites are able to measure sea level much more effectively. In any case, it appears that sea levels were much higher around the Minoan warm period, and I'm just letting the article scroll here so I can just rant about sea level rise and how people don't seem to understand the effects of climate change. So one of the things that happens also is that the Earth's rotation speeds up. We know this from historic eclipse data. Earth's rotation speeds up when the oceans shrink. In other words, when the planet cools down, the Earth rotates faster because the equatorial bulge shrinks, either because of less ocean volume because of colder water, which takes up less space, or because of more water being deposited at the poles in the form of snow and ice. I don't know why people keep talking about Earth's rotation for other reasons, but that's sort of what goes on with Earth's rotation. So perhaps check out this article. Some past sea levels may not have been as high as thought, says study of rising and sinking land masses. Let's talk about unequivocal consensus and, quote, unequivocal consensus on human-made warming in landmark report. Seems like total nonsense to me. And this is going to be all over the newswire, so we decided we'd briefly talk about it here, as the IPCC has released a new report, and it's alarmism cubed. It's alarmism cubed, folks. So the document, quote, is a code red for humanity, said Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. Do you really think the Secretary General of the United Nations knows anything about atmospheric physics or the geologic record? Which, by the way, does not in any way indicate that carbon dioxide has anything to do with the Earth's climate, except that a warmer planet causes more carbon dioxide. Not that more carbon dioxide causes a warmer planet. We'll show you some graphs in a minute to drive that point home. The new publication lands in the middle of the ramp-up to COP26 to be held in Glasgow, November. A global deal to pursue faster emission cuts would depend on poor countries securing $100 billion a year in climate finance from rich countries, something envisioned in previous climate agreements but not yet achieved. National governments would also need to agree to rules governing the trading of emission permits to ensure those moving faster toward cuts are rewarded for doing so. What a pile of nonsense. Complete nonsense. They're worried about methane. They're worried about carbon dioxide. Two ridiculous ideas. Complete and utter bunk nonsense. I'll just let the rest of the article scroll here if you want to read this and lose an IQ point. The refutations in this article are just ridiculous, by the way. And I'm not going to read it again because I'm trying to recover from my lost IQ point that I lost after reading this ridiculous article earlier this morning. The IPCC itself foresees further weakening of the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation in the decades ahead, which, by the way, leads to a cold planet. That is part of the snowball Earth scenario that causes Europe to raise its albedo, get more snow and ice, and propel the Earth into what we call a full glaciation mode. So here's a little diagram of the temperature of the Earth. And keep in mind, every one of these lines represents a different scale. Here you're looking at 100 million years, 10 million years, 1 million years, hundreds of thousands of years, and then tens of thousands of years. I would note that for the last approximately 3 million years, the Earth has been primarily much colder than it is now, which is, by the way, a major danger to mankind, as cold prevents people from being able to grow enough food. And of course, freezing in a block of ice is a lot deadlier than sweating. Here is global temperature versus carbon dioxide, and this should be enough to dispel all the nonsense. If carbon dioxide controls the temperature, why is it that when carbon dioxide was at 7,000 parts per million, the planet was only 10 degrees C warmer than it is now? Wouldn't that make it like 2,000 degrees C warmer than it is now? I mean, according to the nonsense in, climate alarmism, if carbon dioxide controlled the temperature, why did the temperature go up to such high levels here? I mean, why did the carbon go up to such high levels here? And the temperature just stayed flat. Any explanation for that? Also, I would also note that during the Jurassic period, we had nearly 3,000 parts per million. That was the ultimate boom of life on the planet. And since about 30 million years ago, when the Antarctic ice sheet started to form, the planet has gotten much, much colder, as you can see on the graph. This is not even refuted by anybody that I'm aware of. That's the geologic record on Earth's temperature versus carbon dioxide. Please tell your friends and foes, especially climate alarmist imbeciles who know nothing about atmospheric physics. One other point is that Earth's heat latency lies in the oceans, which take thousands of years to heat up and cool down. You can measure the atmosphere all day, and you don't know the Earth's climate, because if you don't know the temperature of the ocean, deep in the Indian Ocean and so on, if you don't know the temperature down there, if you only know the surface temperature and the temperature is the temperature of the atmosphere, you don't know Earth's climate. That said, let me check the life of the stream here, which looks like it's doing just fine. And we'll look at pressure here on windy.com. So here are pressure cells. This is actual data here, not conjecture and nonsense. Here are pressure cells. We'll advance this into the European forecast till tomorrow. There is the pressure forecast according to the Euro model at 12 noon Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow. Powerful low pressure system over north central Canada. Southern polar region dominated by low pressure as well. Continuing on to the U.S. Doppler radar map, we've got strong storms here just brushing across Detroit and about to strike Cleveland as the southern Great Lakes region continue to get a bunch of rain there. Just moving into Pennsylvania here, largely missing Pittsburgh. Also some rain, some welcome rain striking Phoenix. And Minnesota, your weather is, there are some additional showers moving into the southwestern portion of the state. Here's what's going on in the cloud layer. I would also note this area down here. Sudden violent storm here. Right off the Florida Gulf Coast. Here's the water vapor map. And you can see that how fast that water left the map. That indicates that it rained heavily. Probably several inches of rain there falling into the Gulf. And here's your recap. There's your U.S. Doppler radar map. Here's the cloud layer. It's 3.9 nanometer radiation map from the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite Suite. And here's the water vapor. There is a low right at Cape Cod right now. There's a low there as well. It's looking weak. It's surrounded by dry, massive air. And that's today's meteorology segment. Thanks for tuning in. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. smAsho, signing off from the Smash News Network. Least busted name in news.